The crash of glass was followed by my granddaughter Chloe's obnoxious laugh. Whoops, she brayed. Her phone still pointed at the shattered remains of the lamp. Guess your dusty old junk just bit the dust. Grandma. She was filming my reaction for her followers. A smug smirk on her face. She expected me to burst into tears, to wring my hands, to collapse like the senile old woman she believed me to be. My expression did not change. My breathing remained even. I simply looked from the glittering shards of glass on the antique rug, to the phone, and then, finally, to her. She had no idea that the junk she had just destroyed was a documented, insured, and signed Tiffany original. She thought this was a prank. I knew it was a fatal miscalculation, and it was the first and last mistake I would allow her to make in my house. Chloe had arrived 3 weeks ago. Uninvited. I had allowed it. Of course, she was my only son's daughter, and he had called me, begging me to help her get on her feet. I sacrificed my silence, the meticulous, quiet order of my home that I had spent decades cultivating. I sacrificed the scent of old books and lemon oil, now replaced by her cloying, artificial vape smoke, and the constant smell of greasy delivery food. I endured the jarring, tinny noise from her phone at all hours. It'll just be for a month. Grandma, I promise, she had said, her voice dripping with a sweetness I should have recognized as artificial. I'll be so quiet. You won't even know I'm here. But while I was in the guest room, carefully packing away my late husband's treasured books to make space for her, I heard her in the hallway, speaking loudly to a friend. Yeah. The old bat finally gave in. She had laughed. The house is a total mausoleum, but at least it's free. She hadn't been here one day, and she had already proven she saw my kindness not as a gift, but as a weakness to be exploited. Her job, she informed me, was being an influencer. This apparently meant treating my home and my life as a backdrop for her narcissistic and, frankly, boring videos. This meant I sacrificed my dignity. I would walk into my own kitchen, a space I held sacred, to find her filming, wearing my clothes. One morning, she was wearing my navy blue cashmere cardigan. That cardigan was not just a sweater. It was a gift to myself when I was appointed head librarian. 30 years ago. I had sacrificed and saved for 6 months for that one piece of clothing. It was my armor. My symbol of quiet, earned success. Look at this totally ancient sweater. She'd laugh to her phone, stretching the neckline with her fingers. It probably smells like mothballs and regret. I paid the internet bill she used to upload these insults. I paid for the bandwidth she consumed, while she publicly degraded the very sacrifices that afforded her that comfort. I paid for the groceries she ate while simultaneously filming reaction videos about how disgusting and unhealthy my food was. Don't worry, Grandma, she'd say, flashing a bright, empty smile as she tossed another empty pizza box onto the pile. This is work. I'm building my brand. I'll pay you back for everything when I'm famous. But I am a librarian. My entire life's work has been based on auditing facts and cross-referencing sources. I am not tech illiterate. I was simply acting the part. While Chloe was busy filming herself, I was in my study, reviewing the itemized Wi-Fi data usage. I was meticulously cross-referencing the sudden spike in our grocery bill with the mountain of takeout boxes in the recycling bin. She thought I was old and out of touch. I was gathering evidence. While I was in my study, logging the $93 increase in the weekly food budget money I had sacrificed from my own accounts, money I had earmarked for a new donation to the Historical Society, I overheard her on that video call. The best part is, she giggled, she's so old-fashioned. She's completely tech illiterate. She has no idea how much I'm really costing her. She didn't just disrespect me. She quantified her disrespect. She saw my generosity as a financial vulnerability, all while I was literally auditing her financial drain on my computer. But the worst, by far, was her contempt for my work. My house is not just a home, it is an archive. As the retired head librarian and volunteer town historian, my life's work was in the indexed, acid-free boxes that lined the walls of my study. I had dedicated 40 years to preserving our town's history. I had sacrificed my own personal savings to buy the archival quality boxes she mocked. I had sacrificed thousands of weekends, evenings, and dollars to restore documents that others had thrown away. "Wow, Grandma," she said once, walking into my archive room, her phone held aloft. "This is a lot. It's so amazing how you keep all this stuff." That same night, I heard her filming again, whispering this time. "You guys, you will not believe the hoarder den my grandma lives in," she whispered, panning her phone over the meticulous data day, labeled boxes. "She's like a dragon sitting on a pile of literal trash. It's so creepy. She hadn't just insulted me. She had insulted my life's purpose. She had taken my greatest pride and, out of pure, arrogant ignorance, labeled it a mental illness." This brought us to the lamp. This was not an accident. She had been filming a video she called Messy Millennial vs. One. Creepy old house. The act was her dancing around like a fool, intentionally knocking things over, before laughing, oops, at the camera. The lamp was her grand finale. That lamp was not just a lamp. It was my husband's. He had bought it after his first big case as a young lawyer. It was the first unnecessary beautiful thing we had ever allowed ourselves to buy. It had sat on that table for 51 years. While I was standing there, remembering the night my husband brought it home, the look of pride on his face, the way the colored glass lit up his smile. She was zooming in on the broken glass, adding a crying, laughing emoji filter. She was metabolizing my most sacred memory into her disposable, vapid content. This was not an accident. It was an execution of my past. And for that, there would be no more politeness. There would only be an invoice. She finally stopped filming, her smirk widening. She expected tears. She expected me to crumble. My expression was flat. My back remained straight. I did not look at her. I turned and walked to the library. I could hear her scrambling behind me. Filming again. "Ooh, is she gonna cry?" she whispered to her phone. I did not cry. I opened my filing cabinet, went to H for household furnishings, and pulled out a single, pristine folder. I walked back to the living room. "Chloe," I said. My voice was perfectly clear. "This is the original bill of sale from 1972. This is the letter of authenticity from the Sotheby's appraisal in 1990. And this," I said, pulling out the final sheet, "is the 1995 insurance policy update." I then handed her a new document I had just printed from my study. "This is a notarized invoice. The junk you just destroyed was a Dragonfly model lamp. Signed by Louis Comfort Tiffany. You owe me, as per the lowest recent appraisal, $4,500. The color drained from her face. The phone in her hand lowered. "What? That's not funny. Grandma, you're joking. I am a librarian." "Dear," I said, my voice cold, "I do not joke about documentation. You have 30 days to pay the debt, or I will see you in small claims court. Now, get the dustpan and turn off that ridiculous phone." She didn't speak. She just stared at the invoice. Her face a mask of pure, narcissistic rage. I had sacrificed my peace for this girl. I had sacrificed my privacy. I had sacrificed my husband's sacred space. And now, faced with her first real consequence, I could see she wasn't sorry. She was furious. I had won the battle of the lamp, but I saw the look in her eyes. She was already calculating her next move. She had attacked my junk and lost. I knew, as I watched her, that her next attack would be far more personal. She would come for my reputation, and I would be ready for that. 2. Chloe's rage was a suffocating, putrid thing for the next 2 days. She was trapped. That $4,500 invoice I had placed on her dresser was a legal and financial shackle. And she knew it. Her sulking was not silent. It was destructive. This was her new tactic. She began leaving spoiled food hidden in the cushions of the living room sofa. She forgot to flush the toilet. Repeatedly. She knew I had a pathologically sensitive sense of smell. A relic of a childhood illness. I had sacrificed the clean, orderly air in my own home, which I now had to inspect like a warden every time she left a room. "Sorry, Grandma," she'd mumble, not looking up, while I was on my hands and knees, cleaning up a container of spoiled yogurt she had accidentally spilled and kicked under the radiator. I knew this wasn't forgetfulness. It was psychological warfare. She was trying to make my home the filth she wanted it to be. She couldn't attack my junk again. She had learned that my junk was insured and had provenance. So, she decided to attack my reputation. She began filming again, but this time, not with her loud, obnoxious laughter. This time, she filmed with a quiet, concerned whisper. "Hey guys," she'd say to her phone, her voice cracking with fake emotion. "I'm really worried about my grandma. I think she's a hoarder." She began to film my archive rooms, my life's work. She didn't film the labels, the indexes, or the temperature-controlled humidifiers I had sacrificed my own fun money to buy for 3 years. She filmed the boxes. She filmed them from low, menacing angles, making them look like a mountain of unstable trash. She filmed the closed doors of my study, whispering, "She won't let me in. She's so paranoid." I had sacrificed my entire adult life for that archive. I had spent thousands of hours of my own time, unpaid. I had sacrificed holidays, weekends, and social events to sit on the floor of dusty attics, carefully rescuing the town's history from mice and mold. I wasn't just a librarian, I was the town's memory. That archive held the letters of soldiers who never came home, the diaries of the town's founding mothers, the recipes from the first church bake sale in 1902. While Chloe was in the hallway, filming those boxes and calling them filth, she was standing on the very floorboards that I owned, using the internet I paid for to defame the very work that was my soul. She saw my passion as a mental illness. She saw my legacy as her next viral video. It got worse. She knew about the town charter. I had told her the story once. A story of pride. When the town council voted in 1981 to throw away the original town charter, citing storage costs, I was the one who personally drove my station wagon to the dump and rescued it. I sacrificed my money, $20,000 from my own retirement savings, to have it professionally restored by experts in Chicago. That one act was my legacy. And Chloe. She remembered. I saw her filming the restored charter, which hung in a sealed, UV-protected frame in my study. She zoomed in on the date. "She spends all her money on this old paper," she whispered to her phone. "And then she complains when I ask for help." She was twisting my greatest sacrifice into proof of my senility and obsession. She was turning my generosity into her grievance. Then, she tried a new tactic. She came to me in the kitchen, and for the first time, she was not holding her phone. She burst into tears. "Grandma, I'm so sorry," she wept, collapsing into a chair. "I'm just so stressed. That invoice. I don't have that kind of money." My heart, against my better judgment, ached. She was my son's daughter. I sacrificed, for a brief, foolish moment, my cold resolve. I put the kettle on. I sat down. I offered her a tissue. "It's just," she sobbed, "I get so worried about you, all alone in this big house. With all this stuff, I just want to help you." And as I sat there, about to pat her hand, my eyes caught it. Her phone was on the table, screen down, but I saw the faint red glow from the camera lens on the back, and the small, telltale red icon that meant it was recording audio. She wasn't apologizing. She was hunting. She was baiting me, trying to get audio of me sounding confused or old, trying to trap me into saying something she could use. I had sacrificed my compassion, and she had tried to weaponize it. I froze. I said nothing. I simply stood up, picked up the kettle, and poured the boiling water into the sink. I turned to her. My face was a mask of ice. "We are done here," I said. She realized, in that moment, that she had been caught. Her tears stopped instantly, her face contorted with pure, unadulterated hatred. She had failed to get her audio evidence. So, she resorted to the only weapon she had left. On Tuesday morning, she launched her public attack. She stitched all her concerned clips together into one master video. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. It showed her trying to help me. It showed her crying out of worry. And then, it showed the boxes. It showed the charter. The video ended with a tearful plea, "I don't know what to do. The house is full of filth. And she won't accept my help. I'm just so scared for her." And then, the fatal blow. She uploaded it to the town's public community Facebook group. She uploaded it to her own Instagram. And she tagged the official accounts of the First Presbyterian Church and the mayor's office. She sat back, her face smug. She expected an outpouring of sympathy for her. She expected the town to be shocked at my secret. She expected them to see her as the hero, the caring granddaughter, and me as the crazy old lady who needed saving. I found out when my phone began to ping. 1 notification, then 2, then 10. They were all tags. I opened the community group page, and my blood ran cold. There it was. My name, my home, my archive, all laid bare and twisted by her vile, ambitious lies. I sacrificed my dignity in that moment, forced to see my life's work smeared in a public forum by my own flesh and blood. For a moment, I felt the humiliation she intended. I felt the shame. But then, as I read the post, I looked at the names she had tagged. The mayor, the church. A cold, quiet calm settled over me. This was her second fatal miscalculation. She thought she was tech-savvy. She didn't realize she had just emailed her confession to the entire jury. The comments began to roll in, but they were not what Chloe expected. The very first comment was not from a stranger. It was from Mayor Thompson. He wrote, "Chloe, I am horrified. Not by Helen, but by you. Those boxes of filth you are filming are the entire Index Town archive. That junk includes the original town charter, which your grandmother personally saved from a landfill, at a personal cost of $20,000. That archive is the only reason we won the historical grant that paid for the new town hall. Helen is not a hoarder. She is a town treasure." A second comment appeared. This one from Pastor Davies. "This is slander. Helen has run the church's literacy program, from that very archive room, for 30 years. She is the pillar of this community. We will be praying for you, Chloe, and for your profound lack of gratitude." Then, the floodgates opened. I found my grandfather's war letters in that filth. Wrote a neighbor. "Helen spent weeks helping me. Her junk is my family's entire history," wrote another. Dozens of people. The very community Chloe thought she was winning over turned on her with a righteous fury. The final comment was from the group's admin. "This post is disgusting, libelous, and has been removed. Chloe, you are permanently banned from this group. Do not ever disrespect Helen Cooper in this town again." Chloe was a public pariah. Her influencer career in this town was annihilated. She deleted her Instagram account 30 minutes later. I heard a muffled scream of pure, narcissistic rage from her room, followed by the sound of something shattering against her wall. She had attacked my junk and had been handed a $4,000 debt. She had attacked my legacy and had been exiled by the entire community. She was trapped, humiliated, and now, completely isolated. Her rage was no longer silent. It was a terrifying, feral thing, and I knew, as I sat there in my quiet study, that there was only one target left for her. She couldn't destroy my property. She couldn't destroy my reputation. She would now try to destroy the one thing that represented both. I knew, with absolute certainty. She was now thinking about my husband's jacket. The house was no longer a home. It was a Cold War trench. After her public humiliation, Chloe locked herself in her room for a full day. The only sounds were the furious, rapid tapping of her phone screen and a single, guttural scream into her pillow. I had sacrificed my peace for her. And in return, she had tried to have me labeled as a senile outcast. But now, her sulking was not passive. It was destructive. She began leaving spoiled food hidden in the cushions of the living room sofa. She forgot to flush the toilet. Repeatedly. She knew I had a pathologically sensitive sense of smell. A relic of a childhood illness. I had sacrificed the clean, orderly air in my own home, which I now had to inspect like a warden every time she left a room. "Sorry, Grandma," she'd mumble, while I was on my hands and knees, cleaning up a container of spoiled yogurt she had accidentally kicked under the radiator. I knew this wasn't forgetfulness. It was psychological warfare. She was trying to make my home the filth she wanted it to be. And I knew, with the certainty of a librarian indexing a new, dangerous volume, that her rage was now fixed on the one item in this house that held more value than the lamp and the archive combined. My husband Frank's jacket. It was not junk. It was not vintage. It was a memorial. It hung in the back of my own closet, in a sealed garment bag, safe from the dust and the light. It was a 1962 era leather, a 2-flight jacket, and he had bought it for me. Not for him. We were young, barely 25, and I had just been accepted into the master's program for library science. It was a sacrifice. It meant 2 more years of scrimping, 2 more years of him working overtime at the plant, 2 more years of potatoes for dinner. I had told him I couldn't do it, that we couldn't afford the tuition and the lost income. I was ready to give up my dream for our practical future. He had said nothing. A week later, he came home with a box. Inside was this jacket, for my brilliant, tough as nails, librarian. He had said, his hands rough from his shift. "So you can look the part." I had sacrificed my dream, and he had refused to accept it. He had sacrificed his own small savings, the money he'd been putting away for a new set of tools, to buy me this jacket as a symbol. It was not a piece of clothing. It was a promise. I had sacrificed my sleep, my energy, and my own health during the long, terrible years of Frank's illness. That jacket became my uniform. In the ice-cold hospital corridors, waiting for test results, I would wear it. The leather was a shield, the scent of him, faint, but still there a mix of pipe tobacco, old books, and soap was a comfort. I wore it the night he passed. I had sat by his bed for 48 hours straight, holding his hand, my body aching with a bone-deep exhaustion I had not known was possible. When the nurse finally, gently, told me he was gone, I had stood up, pulled the jacket on over my sweater, and walked out into the pre-dawn cold. I had sacrificed everything to keep him, and in the end, all I had left was this thing, this piece of leather and wool, while I was in the deepest, most profound grief of my life. That jacket was the only thing that felt real. It was not a memory. It was the physical proof of my entire adult life. Chloe knew this. I had made the mistake of telling her. Once, when she first arrived, during that brief, false period of her sweetness, she had asked about a photo of me wearing it. "It's just an old jacket, Grandma," she had said, wrinkling her nose. "It's so, Butch." I, in a moment of weakness, had told her, "It was your grandfather's gift to me. He bought it when I started my master's." Her response was not sympathy. It was a blank, bored stare. Oh, weird. While I was sharing the most sacred origin story of my life, a story of love and profound sacrifice. She was scrolling through her phone, liking photos of shoes. She hadn't just dismissed my story, she had shown me, in that moment, that my sentiment had no value in her world. It was useless. So, when I came downstairs on Thursday afternoon and found her in the living room, wearing it, time stopped. She was not just wearing it. She was performing in it. She had her phone propped up on the mantel, filming. She had pulled my husband's reading glasses, his glasses from his desk drawer, and had them perched on her nose. She was posing, pooting, one hand on her hip. The leather jacket stretched tight across her shoulders. She was mocking him. She was desecrating me. She was taking the one, pure, sacred thing I had left in this world and turning it into a costume for her idiotic, vapid, digital stage. This was the attack. This was the public confrontation she craved. She expected me to break. She expected me to scream. She expected me to run to her, try to rip it off her, and burst into the hysterical tears she had been trying to film all along. She wanted me to give her the hoarder freakout that the town had denied her. I did not move. I did not breathe. I felt the polite, accommodating, sweet grandma mask I had worn for weeks, for years, crack, splinter, and fall away like shattered porcelain. It was not anger I felt. It was a pure, cold, structural calm. It was the absolute zero of my soul. I had sacrificed my peace, my privacy, my dignity, and my money for this. This child, and she had, in her infinity, arrogant stupidity, finally crossed the one line I had left. She had mistaken my patience for weakness. She had mistaken my grief for senility. And now, she had put her hands on the one thing that was not mine to sacrifice. She had put her hands on Frank. I waited for her to notice me. She finally turned from her phone, and the smug, pouting look on her face faltered, replaced by confusion. I was not crying. I was not yelling. I was simply watching her. What she said, her voice suddenly unsure. It's just a jacket. God. My gaze was locked on her. My back was straight. My heart did not race. Take, I said. My voice was not my own. It was a low, flat, dead thing. It, off. The change in her was immediate. The smugness vanished. The arrogance evaporated. This was not the old bat she knew. This was not the senile hoarder she had tried to create. This was a stranger. And this stranger was, in a way she could not define, dangerous. The coldness in my voice terrified her. Her hands, which had been so confidently perched on her hips, began to shake. She fumbled with the zipper. Now, I said. She ripped the jacket off her shoulders as if it were on fire. She held it out to me, her arm trembling. She wouldn't look at me. She was terrified. She, the influencer who lived for confrontation, it was scared of a little old lady in her own living room. That was her humiliation. My coldness was her payoff. She shoved the jacket into my hands and fled, running up the stairs. I heard her bedroom door slam shut. I stood there, holding the jacket. I could smell her on it. Her cheap, fruity perfume. Mixed with my husband's memory, it felt like a violation. And as I stood there, I knew she was not just scared. She was furious. She was enraged that I had scared her. She was humiliated that a simple, quiet command from me had undone her. Her retreat was not a surrender. It was a tactical regroup. She now knew she couldn't win a confrontation with me. So, she would have to destroy the jacket without me. She would have to do it publicly, where I couldn't stop her, to win back the power she had just lost. The insurance company moved with a speed I found admirable. The video was, as my agent Margaret had called it, a slam dunk. It was a prosecutor's dream, a confession, a motive, and a visual record of the crime, all filmed and published by the perpetrator. They did not even need to see the ruined jacket, which I had left in the evidence bag in my study. The video file was enough. The check arrived by courier 5 days later. I looked at the number written on the line, $15,000. I had sacrificed a small, useless amount of money every single year, for 30 years. For this exact policy, it was a sacrifice of prudence. The kind of quiet, boring foresight that influencers like Chloe would never understand. While I was dutifully archiving my own assets, she was plotting to destroy them. She thought my meticulousness was a sign of senility. The insurance company saw it as proof of unimpeachable documentation. This check was not a windfall. It was a validation. Next, I sacrificed the last lingering thread of family obligation. I went to my study, the one she had violated, and sat at my computer. I typed up a formal, legal, 30-day eviction notice. I cited her non-payment of agreed-upon debt, the $4,500 lamp, and, more pointedly, her willful destruction of private property and creation of an unsafe living environment. I remembered her promise when she arrived, her voice dripping with that false sweetness. "I'll be so quiet. You won't even know I'm here." While I had sacrificed my safety and my peace to honor my son's request to help her, she had been a parasite, a vandal, and now, a felon. As I printed the document, the crisp paper sliding out of the machine, I felt no guilt. This was not an act of anger. It was an act of sanitation. I was no longer a grandmother. I was a landlord evicting a tenant who had violated the terms of her lease. The phone call I dreaded came the next day. My son. "Mom. What the hell are you doing?" he yelled. Chloe had obviously called him, weeping her crocodile tears. "She's just a kid. Mom, you're throwing her out and suing her over an old coat. My son. The man whose college tuition I had paid. The man whose own teenage antics I had endured and forgiven. I had sacrificed my life to give him one. And now, he was siding with the person who had tried to destroy me. She's crying. Mom." He pushed. "She says you've been tormenting her." While I was silently grieving the destruction of his father's memory, he was publicly accusing me of torment. The betrayal was absolute. It finalized what I already knew. My voice was ice. It was not a coat. It was a $15,000 insured asset. Your daughter filmed herself destroying it. The insurance company is now handling the matter. This is not a family discussion. This is a legal one. Do not call me on her behalf again. I hung up the phone. Chloe finally emerged that afternoon, her face puffy from crying. But her eyes held that familiar, arrogant sneer. She had been served the eviction notice. I had left it taped to her door. She strode into the living room, where I was reading. "So, you're kicking me out," she spat. "Whatever. I don't even care. At least I finally got rid of that stupid, ugly jacket." She expected me to scream. She expected me to defend it. She expected some emotional reaction she could feed on. I thought of Frank's smell. The smell of pipe, tobacco, and old books. Now gone forever. Replaced by the stench of cheap wine. While I was feeling that profound, final loss, she was gloating over having inflicted it. I simply turned a page in my book. "Your timing is impeccable." "Chloe," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "I believe that's for you." There was a loud, sharp knock on the front door. Chloe froze, her smug expression dissolving into confusion. What, I stood up? "That is for you. I suggest you answer it." I walked to the door and opened it myself. A man in a plain suit stood on the porch. He was not a police officer. He was something far more terrifying. He was a process server. "I'm looking for a Ms. Chloe Benson," he said, holding a thick manila envelope. "That would be her," I said, gesturing to my granddaughter, who was now standing, white-faced, in the entryway. "Chloe, this gentleman has some paperwork for you." Chloe numbly took the envelope. She tore it open, her hands shaking, still believing this was some trick of mine. I watched her scan the first page. I watched the blood drain from her face. I watched her knees literally buckle. "What? What is this?" she whispered. "This says $15,000 and $4,500 for the lamp." I added, "Plus legal fees. Read the fine print." She looked at me, her eyes wide with a terror I had not seen before. This was not the fear of a mean old lady. This was the terror of consequences. "But the insurance, that's your—" "Yes," I said, my voice as cold and flat as a steel file. My insurance. I am an archivist. Chloe. I document. I insure. And I protect my assets. The company paid me for the asset you destroyed. I pointed to a line on the paper she was holding. And that word, right there, that's subrogation. It's a legal term. It means that when an insurance company pays a claim, they inherit the right to sue the person who caused the damage. They paid me. Chloe. And now, you are going to pay them. She collapsed onto the bottom stair, the papers fluttering from her hand. The influencer was finished. The brand was bankrupt. She was 30 days from being homeless. And she was now in crippling, undischargeable debt to a massive corporation's legal team. She had built her entire life on being a liability, and she had just, finally, been held liable. You can't do this, she whimpered. I didn't. I said. I turned, picked up my book, and walked back to my chair. You did. You documented the whole thing. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have 30 days to enjoy the peace and quiet. What about you? Have you ever had to use old-fashioned knowledge to solve a modern problem? I've learned that while technology changes, the principles of documentation and the consequences of arrogance are timeless. Let me know your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey of justice, please like and subscribe for more stories about finding your voice and your worth.